There are few albums I find to be genuinely meaningful, cohesive narratives, and it's even rarer to find one that reaches the level of mainstream success that Sour by Olivia Rodrigo has. The popularity of this record should come as no surprise to anyone who has heard its dynamic blend of styles and Rodrigo's varied but always powerful performances, all packed into either catchy pop bangers, emotional ballads, or both. Contained within all this is an incredible story that balances not excusing the wrongs done to her with introspection that leads to personal change. By the way, this is all my interpretation. I don't know Olivia Rodrigo, and I'm not saying that you're wrong if you disagree with me. But with that being said, let's talk about Sour. Brutal is a musical establishing shot, positioning us in the space Rodrigo exists within. It provides vital context and characterization before we enter the story of heartbreak. The aggressive instrumentation ensures we never forget the pain that the various subjects of the song cause, even through vocal tone shifts between the verses and the line, "God, it's brutal out here," which sounds a bit more tongue-in-cheek. I tend to view the tonal shifts as reflecting how the problems she describes don't really go away, but most just continue on with life, not taking them as seriously until you break down again. There are several lines describing her insecurity and anxiety, making her low self-esteem clear. Due to this, she's depending on the views of others to give her some sense of worth. If anyone could rely on others' opinions and affections in this way, it'd be a literal rock star. But as she states, the only value people see in that is exploitative. Her self-expression is literally a commodity. She feels betrayed by not getting the teenage dream she was promised. When your sense of self-worth is coming from external forces, whether they be capitalism, rewards, or affection, rejection, and betrayal aren't just the horrible things they are, but also assaults on your very existence. So the song ends with, "Got a broken ego, broken heart, and God, I don't even know where to start." She is a complex whirlwind of emotions, some out of not receiving the validation to offset her low self-esteem, and some out of simply being wronged. Brutal gives us this as a lens to view the story of her dealing with her breakup. With Traitor, we get our first of many breakup songs. This song expresses her feelings of betrayal after her ex started dating someone else 2 weeks after they broke up. At best, her ex did not care about her enough to need time to move on, and at worst, as she reasons, they were cheating on her. Like most songs on the album, it is very direct, but we know that this especially hurts Rodrigo because it undermines the validation she was receiving from this relationship, which we know she needs based on the low self-esteem shown in Brutal. The lyrics recount her memories of her suspicions she had of them during the relationship. With these suspicions, she had to suppress herself to stay in the relationship, which kept her stuck. She so desperately needed this relationship because of her need for external validation, but she could never grow past that because this relationship was also stifling her ability to express herself, further making her lose touch with herself and need the relationship even more. With it now being ripped away from her, we hear the pain of losing her driving force and also the conflict of having to hate the person she loves for taking this from her in her chilling vocal performance. Driver's License is likely most people's introduction to Rodrigo, but it gains added weight from being put into context of the last two songs. She calls her ex's new girlfriend everything she is insecure about, building off of Traitor, where Rodrigo describes her feeling that she's being replaced. She had said, Now you bring her around just to shut me down. And was she sleeping in the bed we made? Which adds to the potency of driver's license, because we now know that it is hurting her even more because of the specific qualities about this girl, invalidating other aspects of Rodrigo than just her relationship. The whole song also builds off of the idea from Brutal of not getting what was promised to you. Getting your driver's license is supposed to be a fun step toward adulthood, but the adulthood Rodrigo is headed toward is nothing like what she thought she'd have now that she's alone. She describes the adulthood she thought she'd have with everything on the road reminding her that she's headed toward misery. Maybe this is part of why she cries when someone says, "Enjoy your youth." That is just a reminder of how doomed she is to a depressing adulthood. She can't enjoy her youth, and she'll be a miserable adult. So what is even the point? Moving on to 1 step forward, 3 steps back. We hear her describe her search for validation during her relationship. It was far from constant, with it feeling like it invalidated her more often than not. We get insight into the pain she is feeling, relying on something so inconsistent. But she also says that inconsistency could be part of the appeal. If she were to always receive praise from her partner, then it wouldn't have the same weight as it did when it was rare. People gamble even though it is not a smart move financially, because the excitement of the rare big reward is a lot more enticing than steady, more spread out income. Rodrigo is doing the same here. She's not just gambling for fun though. She needs to win to feel okay. And when she loses, she only wonders what is wrong with her. She doubts everything about herself because that is her first reaction when faced with rejection due to her low self-esteem. This song further characterizes her way of thinking by showing us this process in real time and how events translate to self-loathing. Deja Vu is probably my most listened to song of the year, but I unfortunately do not have a whole ton to say about it. It sounds incredible. Her performance is perfect. It blends its styles so well, and whatever instrument it is that makes it sound like we're going back in time or something when she finishes the chorus is so cool. But here we once again see Rodrigo struggling with being replaced. She is further along on accepting that things are really over, but she needs to still feel special. She clings to the idea of being the original when it comes to her ex's partners. We get descriptions of the little things that she enjoyed about her relationship, but happening between her ex and their new partner. This both gives us more insight into her relationship with her ex and also shows her further spiraling. I think the most important line of the song is, "I hate to think that I was just your type." She will never experience these things again, and this girl who she views as being better than her in every way gets to combat the tempting conclusion that the new girl gets to have these things because she is better than Rodrigo, and therefore that Rodrigo herself is not deserving of happiness. She clings to the idea of being the original to give herself value. However, if she's just her ex's type and therefore not the original, then she has nothing. She's just not good enough. On Good For You, we go through pretty much all of the problems previously expressed about Rodrigo's romantic situation, but this time we see the biggest jump forward we have seen yet. It is worth noting that she has been making progress throughout the album. The increased frequency of her acknowledging that part of her pain is stemming from her own insecurity, whether it be through the progressively more direct descriptions of being replaced or the self-awareness on Deja Vu, show progress in her sorting out that whirlwind of emotions. However, on Good For You, we get a track dominated by anger toward her ex. She's still being a bit toxic in essentially getting mad that they're happy, but she's able to work through some of her self-doubt. As she questions if she's too emotional, she always answers that her ex has done something to wrong her. This is a slightly different person from the one we saw on One Step Forward, Three Steps Back. Now she is not responding to every single rejection with self-loathing, and she was able to get to this point because of the progress she has made in processing her emotions that we've seen up to this point. She is still not done growing, though. She is still bitter and distraught from this breakup, and she still doesn't have a healthy source of self-worth. Enough For You is just fantastic. In this song, she pretty much acknowledges everything I have said up to this point, and through that is able to take the first step in a new direction. The first two verses talk about her suppressing her own individuality for the sake of her ex. She tried to be her ex's ideal, someone she's not, but she doesn't like herself as much as she likes praise from her ex. But after all that work, he did not even give her that. No matter what she does, she'll never be enough for him. She has always known this, but she has a healthier approach to the idea now. She says, "You broke my heart, but you broke much more than that. Now I don't want your sympathy, I just want myself back." She acknowledges that what she's feeling is more than a simple heartbreak, and she's able to see that who she is valuable outside of this relationship. Her big misstep here is that she goes on to define that value as being enough for someone else. She recognizes that she is valuable, but she needs someone else to see that value for her to truly believe it. Happier feels like the ending point of a worse album. This contrasts well with Good For You, with Rodrigo actually glad her ex is happy. She recognizes the toxicity in her only wishing for them to suffer. However, there is a caveat. Because of her own selfishness, she isn't wishing for the best for them, and she acknowledges this. She's still clinging to the idea of this relationship, now a month in the past, to provide a sense of value to herself, revealing the problem with her conclusions on Enough For You. She recognized the value of her own individuality, but because she still needs others to recognize it and she doesn't have anyone else yet, she cannot get over her ex. Even though a lot of the bitterness is gone, she needs her worth to be confirmed by him, never being as happy as he was when he was with her. She does take a step forward with how she describes her ex's new partner. She recognizes her fault in hating her and lets some of that go. It is a little ironic, though, that she recognizes this while still trying to feel superior to her, with the wish that her ex will never be happier. She has made progress in letting go of some of her hatred toward both her ex and their new partner, but she still has more work to do. I should also mention the line, "She probably gives you butterflies." Butterflies are an important symbol within the work, even though they are not mentioned much. This line sets up the symbol perfectly, though. It sounds like just an acknowledgement of the genuineness of her ex's feelings for their partner, and it is that. but I think it speaks to Rodrigo's larger conception of what romance should be. This interpretation gains more validity when the symbol is brought up again, but for now I'll just say that flight is a common symbol for the ability to live life happily, and of course butterflies can literally fly. Giving someone butterflies is always used in the context of romantic feelings, and based on everything else in the album, Rodrigo feels she needs a romantic partner for her to be secure enough in herself to live through all her problems she described on Brutal. Given that, butterflies become a symbol of flight, of the self-assuredness to live happily, and Rodrigo feels someone else, a romantic partner, needs to give them to her. On Jealousy, Rodrigo appears to take a step back. She details her struggles with her low self-esteem that leads to her being envious of just about everyone, even when she isn't even lacking the things she's envious of. It shows that she is still struggling with many of the things she has been throughout the album. But I do not think it is a true step back for a few reasons. She is acknowledging her low self-esteem as being a problem for her outside of her romantic life. There were certainly problems with her relationship and how she was treated, but she also has some personal healing to do. The transition between Happier, where she acknowledges her fault in her comparison to her ex's new girlfriend while still comparing herself to her, and this song flows perfectly as she is now acknowledging how this is one of her flaws, even when it has nothing to do with romance. The song does not excuse her for this fault to the point of ignoring the possibility of her change, but it does acknowledge the flaws in our society for how superficial it is when trying to display someone's worth. Of course, when you grow up in an environment where people's value is defined by symbols of capitalistic success, dominance through comparison, or commodified physical characteristics, you would look at yourself in that way that leads to poor self-esteem because you can never have everything. And even if you did, that's not what makes up a person. I think this is part of what makes this jealousy so devastating. I don't think it is just envying the specific items or qualities Rodrigo lists, but also that without knowing these people, it seems like they are actually completely defined by these glamorous things. For Rodrigo, who has not quite figured out where her worth should be founded, and therefore feels the lack of self-worth, it is desirable to be able to be completely defined by these things because it lets her think that maybe she could just get all these things and she'd be happy. This is the same way she has been thinking about her relationship, but we know that even when she was in the relationship, she wasn't happy. Because of this, and the fact that this song comes after Happier, I think she knows all this. She definitely knows her jealousy is unfounded. She just doesn't have a healthier system of values yet. With the penultimate song, Favorite Crime, Rodrigo takes a giant leap forward, no caveats. We once again get a description of what happened, but the perspective is once again completely different. This time, she is much healthier. It is still one of the most emotional songs on the album because, well, her heart is broken. She directly states this: "One heart broke, 4 hands bloody." This time, she has completely acknowledged that she played a role in her suffering. Her view of her relationship in this song is far more nuanced, and it is that level of nuance that allows her to not invalidate herself through the simplification. This isn't completely her ex's fault, and it's not completely her fault. Her feelings toward her ex aren't just anger, just sadness, or just love, but a messy mixture. I say that I hate you with a smile on my face. These are all emotions she is feeling simultaneously, and By pretending that is not the case, she was invalidating at least some of her emotions and therefore herself. It is how we think and how we feel that defines who we are. She has a lot of thoughts and feelings toward her ex, and to pretend like she doesn't, or that those feelings and thoughts are simpler than they are, is ignoring who she is. Through the increasingly refined perspectives she forms on her romantic life throughout this album, we see how she gains a greater understanding of her emotions and therefore herself. In Favorite Crime, she fully embraces all her emotions, even if they're contradictory, and therefore embraces herself. I also love the title and how it is used throughout the song. The relationship being a crime is her acknowledging that it was a mistake. Her desire to be his favorite crime subverts her previous desire to be his favorite or to be special, because it is paired with the acknowledgement of the fact that it was a crime. This shows how she has fully understood how meaningless being their favorite or being special or being the best is. It almost feels like she's making a joke out of how she used to think. She is her, and now she has embraced that. Some time seems to have passed between Favorite Crime and Hope You're Okay. On Favorite Crime, she was able to actually work through her heartbreak by letting herself feel what she has to feel with complete sincerity. On Hope You're Okay, we get a glimpse into the new Olivia Rodrigo, having made it through all this. Now that she has found understanding and acceptance of herself, she's able to look at others in a healthier way. Everyone is as complex as her. No one is as simple as she viewed them on Jealousy. Through embracing that complexity within herself, she is able to see it in others. We hear short vignettes of a couple people Rodrigo used to know. We see her understanding the pain of their situations, but she also knows that they are not doomed to misery like she once thought she was. She expresses the complexity of their situation by understanding their pain, but also that they have qualities like courage that she hopes will help them. These are clearly people who are important to Rodrigo, but this is the first we're hearing about them because they did not fit into how she viewed others before. She obviously knew all this, but she didn't understand herself and therefore didn't understand the importance of these people and their stories. Now she does, and she embraces her emotions about these people, emotions that will likely never be returned, but they are hers, and that is enough. We finally return to the butterfly metaphor with address the letters to the holes in my butterfly wings. Her means of flight, her ability to live happily, has holes. She has gone through a lot of hurt that has impaired her, but these holes are being filled by the letters, by her thoughts and feelings she sent out in these two vignettes. Embracing her emotions and expressing herself are gonna let her fly with her own wings again, regardless of if she gets a reply. She has one more letter to send though. We get a repetition of how the two previous stories ended as our outro, but we did not get an extra story. Everything before the outro, the whole album was that story. She ends off the album with a genuine hope that her ex is okay. She has moved past the bitterness and she's secure enough in herself to validate all the feelings that preceded this on her own. She needs no response, and she will fly with her own two wings either way. And we're done. That was a lot. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you made it through the whole thing, you were the best. I really enjoyed making this, but lots of time and energy went into it. Lots of listen. I mean, I love the album. I've heard it so many times, but lots of listening to the album, going through it, trying to get as detailed of a look into this album as possible. And I really hope you enjoyed it. If I added anything to your perspective, send some comments down below. If you disagree with anything I've said, leave a comment. If you just agreed with everything I said, got it all before, tell me that. Leave a comment. I know I don't always respond to them, but I do read all the YouTube comments, so I will at least see your comment. I will try my best to respond over the next week. So I hope you enjoyed that. All of our links are in the description. Our Instagrams, go follow them if you haven't. Our Twitters, go follow them if you haven't. There's Patreon in there. If you really enjoyed that, it would mean a lot if you subscribe to the Patreon. But obviously you don't have to, but even like $1 is incredible. But also hit the subscribe button. Please like this video, leave a comment, ring the bell, do all the things if you enjoyed this. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.